In this part of the lesson, we'll talk about some of the basic concepts involved in working with collections in Excel VBA. Although we won't do much in the way of practical things in this session, a lot of the concepts we'll cover are important background information for a lot of the other techniques that we'll use in this module. Let's get started with opening up the workbook that I've downloaded and extracted, and then we can choose to enable content to allow any existing code to run. This workbook contains lots of information about the 2017 NFL season. I suppose I could update it for the 2018 season as the Super Bowl happened not too long ago, but as I haven't quite gotten over the fact that the Patriots won again, I haven't been able to bring myself to do that just yet. Anyway, that's besides the point. The point of this session is to talk about collections. In VBA terms, a collection is all of the objects of one specific type within a particular container. The workbook is a container of multiple collections. For instance, there's a collection of sheets. You can see the 5 sheet tabs sitting down here at the bottom of the workbook. There are 2 separate collections of those, in fact. There's a worksheets collection, which consists of only the worksheets, the ones with a row and column style arrangement. And there are 2 objects in the charts collection, which consists of just chart objects. Each worksheet is a container for other collections of objects. So for example, this worksheet contains a list objects collection, which consists of these 4 separate tables. There's also a chart objects collection consisting of these 4 separate charts. Each chart object is also a container for collections of other objects. This chart has a series collection, and the individual series objects in it are containers for collections of points, consisting of the individual data points in the chart. The workbook itself belongs to a collection of workbooks, which always consists of all of the open workbooks in the session of Excel. There are many other examples of collections in VBA, and the techniques and concepts we'll describe in this part of the lesson apply to all of them. Now, at a basic level, a collection is just a special type of VBA object. And as you know by now, you can apply methods and properties to objects to make things happen in VBA. Let's head to the Developer tab and open up the Visual Basic Editor, and in Module 1 we'll find the subroutine called Refer to Collections. Let's open the IntelliSense list by pressing Ctrl and Space, and then look for the name of the Workbooks collection in the list. We can then enter a full stop after its name to see the list of methods and properties we can apply to this collection. This tells us that, for example, we could use the add method to create a brand new blank workbook. Or we could also apply the close method to the collection to close all of the open workbooks. We can also use the count property to find out how many objects currently belong to the collection. Let's use a debug.print statement to write out the number of workbooks that we currently have open. So we'll refer to the count property of the workbooks collection. And before that, we can say debug.print. And then let's add a bit of text to this. Let's concatenate this. So we can say workbooks.count ampersand workbooks. We can use this same technique to count the number of items in other collections. Let's just copy and paste this line. So we can copy it and paste it in a couple of times, 3 times in fact. And then on the next line, let's find the count of the worksheets collection. I'll just update the bit of text at the end to say worksheets. We could also find the count of the charts collection, so I can remove the word workbooks, press Ctrl and Space and look for the charts collection. I can then remove the word workbooks here and replace that with charts. Finally, let's have a look at the number of items in the sheets collection. So I can look for the sheets collection, and then I can change the word workbooks to the word sheets. In order to see the results of this subroutine, we'll need to open the Immediate window, so we can head to the View menu and choose Immediate window, or press Ctrl and G on the keyboard. If we then either run the entire procedure or step through it using the F8 key, we'll see the number of items for each of these existing collections printed out in the window at the bottom of the screen. In some cases, when you refer to a collection, VBA makes an assumption about which container the collection belongs to. So for example, for the worksheets collection that we referenced here, VBA assumes that you're referring to the collection of worksheets in the currently active workbook. Let's add a line of code to the top of this procedure which adds a new workbook to the workbooks collection, so we can reference the workbooks collection and apply the add method to it. When we add a workbook, this workbook becomes the active one. So this should change the counts of the items of the various collections. If we use the F8 key to step through, we can now add a new workbook. So this should change the fact that the workbooks collection now contains 2 items. Now we see it in the immediate window. The worksheets count should be 1. There are no charts, and therefore the overall sheets count should be 1 as well. In some cases, you'll want to be explicit about which object is the container for the collection you're referencing. Let's refer to the worksheets, charts and sheets collections in the same workbook that this module and code is stored in. We can do that by qualifying these references with a reference to the this workbook object. This workbook is the default property which refers to the workbook object containing the code that's running. So this workbook.worksheets, this workbook.charts, this workbook.sheets. If we clear the contents of the immediate window now, just by selecting the text and deleting it, this time when we step through the procedure, it doesn't matter which workbook is currently active, it's still book 1, but we should now see that we get the count of items belonging to, the active workbook is now book 2 because I've run the subroutine again and we've just inserted a new one. If I run the rest of the subroutine, I'll find out that even though I have 3 workbooks open and book 2 is the active one, I'm printing out the numbers of items in the collections in this workbook. Now, while it's optional to refer to the container object for some collections, like the 3 we've just seen here, for some collections you must always specify which is the container object. Let's create another subroutine called refer to embedded collections. If we return to Excel for a moment and return to the NFL 2017 worksheet in the main workbook, this worksheet contains a collection called list objects, and it contains these 2 items, this table here and this table here. Let's say that we wanted to print a count of the list objects collection from this worksheet. Let's return to the Visual Basic Editor and add another debug.print statement to get some information displayed in the immediate window. And let's refer to the list objects collection followed by the count property. If I attempt to run this subroutine, I'll be warned that I haven't defined the list objects variable. That indicates that the list object's name doesn't exist. Well, that's not quite true. The problem is that I haven't qualified the reference to the list objects collection with the name of its containing object. I can do this in a variety of ways, but I've got a quick code name that I can use to refer to the NFL 2017 sheet. I've called it WS NFL 2017. Not really a catchy name, but there we go. If I were to add that reference, WS NFL 2017, followed by a full stop, I've now referred to the container object for the list objects collection, so that if I were to run the subroutine at this point, I will see that I get the count of 2. I suppose I should concatenate some kind of text to this as well, so that it says something like tables. So if I run this subroutine again, there we go. The same rule applies if I want to reference any object in a collection that's embedded in a worksheet. So for example, let's add another statement that says debug.print, and I want to reference an item or the count of the chart objects in the same worksheet. So I need to reference WS NFL 2017 dot chart objects dot count. I'll add a quick bit of text there to say charts, and then if I clear the contents of the immediate window and then run this subroutine again, I'll find that I have indeed got 2 tables and 2 charts.